Hello, podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer. Coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, horsters, and welcome back to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast. This is week 4, episode 4, season 1. I don't even know why I said season 1 because I don't know if we're going to have seasons. I'm Matt, joined with my good buddy, Timmy Fleischer over here, and we've got a special guest that's going to help us out tonight, his daughter, Amelia.
Say hi, Amelia.
Hi.
So, yep, that's Amelia. She's going to be helping us out with things. So a couple of, housekeeping items, I suppose. We've had some requests from people to mention messaging us with, user-submitted questions about gardening, horticulture, tips, tricks, whatever it may be. So make sure you do that through our Instagram. If you aren't following us yet, give us a follow on the gram. It's Shrubby Buddies Podcast on Instagram, and we'll try and take, if we get some questions, we'll try and take those. And if there's a bunch, pick a couple of them and try and answer them each week for the new listeners.
Yeah, we'll try to answer them right here on the podcast.
Right on the podcast. Yeah, we're not going to message you back through Instagram, so you got to listen the next week for the answer to your question. That'll keep you coming back for more. Also, what else? Is there anything else? Or no more alsos?
If there's any alsos, I think it's what's going on this week.
Yeah, so what is going on? What's going on with you this week? What you got?
Nothing super specific this week. The gardens are just exploding with color, and I'm loving that. We've been getting some rain here in Central Ohio with more to come, and they're just looking really refreshed. But along with the refreshed perennials, shrubs, trees, come lots of weeds. So dealing with that too. Lots of weeds and vigorous ones too.
Yeah, we're the weedy buddies right now.
Yes, we are.
Not the shrubby buddies, weedy buddies.
Yeah, and not the cereal, not Wheaties.
No.
Like weeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
Same as these, bro. Not a whole lot going on. Just like you said, it's been rainy. So not a whole lot going on. We had a super busy weekend at the greenhouse this past weekend, Mother's Day weekend, and we crushed it at Dutch Mill. Sold lots and lots of annual flowers, perennial shrubs, all of the good stuff. But
a lot of happy moms out there.
Lots of happy moms.
Lots of,
my goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
They have been pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, not a whole lot going on. Like you said, everything's looking good. Everything's looking fresh. We've had these timely rains, some warm weather, and the sunshine, in between rains is really helping things out, making things look really good. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's dive in.
Yeah, not a whole lot of new stuff going on my end. But
what are we going to do today, Matt? What are we going to talk about?
So today's episode is called Alphabet Soup for the Gardener's Soul. So we're going to roll the dice, the Scattergories dice, that is. And we're just going to talk about a few things horticulture related, whether that be plants, tips, tricks, whatever that relates to the letter that's rolled. And our special guest, Amelia Fleischer, is going to be helping us by rolling the dice tonight and calling out the letters. And yeah, so let's just dive in on this. Oh, and this is not like set up, so we're also going to be you got your phone ready there. We're going to be recording Amelia rolling the dice once here with the letter and stuff, and we're going to post it to Instagram so everybody knows that it's legit and we're not scripting this in any way. So
without further ado,
yeah, Amelia, roll that dice. Give us our first letter.
The letter is H.
Letter H. All right.
Thank you, Amelia.
Letter H. Tim, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you start it off here with the letter H. You got any ideas on the letter H?
Yeah, I'll do a quick one on the letter H for a shade loving plant that's going to add foliage color to your garden, and that's heuchera, aka coral bells, and it's a great plant for adding color to the shade garden all year round. So we're growing it for the foliage color, so it comes in purples, reds, oranges, chartreuse, all kinds of different
oranges. Did you say orange?
I may have said orange, but yeah, that's so heuchera, not necessarily grown for the flowers. It grows a little spike of some flowers that you can forget, but what it does is just lights up that shade all season long. And so heuchera, coral bells, it will get browsed by critters, rabbits, deer. So if you've got a lot of pressure from the mammals, maybe not the best thing, but a really tough plant for the shade. Really colorful plant for the shade.
That's a good one. Heuchera. We sold a lot of those this weekend. Everyone that walks by was like, "Oh, I just love these things."
Yeah, and they do. Some of them will do okay in the sun, but it's worth doing a little research on which colors and which species and cultivars do better in the sun. But it really is a good shade plant to brighten things up. So, heuchera. Have you got an H?
I do have an H, and when I say this, you're gonna be like, "Oh, why didn't I say trees?" It's not a tree.
Okay, something in.
It's a shrub for shrubby buddies.
Yeah. What do you got?
Hamamelis.
Oh,
witch hazel. Hamamelis, the witch hazel, Hamamelis, and all of the subspecies, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I would say the three big ones are Hamamelis virginiana, Hamamelis X intermedia, which is a hybrid. That's the non-native one, and Hamamelis vernalis. And
yeah,
did you want to touch on a few of the attributes?
I just love the early season flowering, or in some cases the late season flowering.
Yes, Hamamelis virginiana, you're going to get like late November into December blooms.
So that early winter, late fall, early winter flower. The X intermedias would be the early spring, I guess.
They're the showiest ones. They're the most fragrant. They come in the most different colors.
Bright colors, too.
Yeah.
So adding a little interest, early season interest to your garden. I know we hit on that the first episode, but Hamamelis, witch hazel, add them to your garden. They're fantastic. So you got anything else for an H?
I think we need to roll the die again.
All right. Amelia, do us the pleasure.
The letter is O.
Oh.
I have one.
Go ahead. Oh, boy. I think I know where you're going with this.
I don't think you do.
Okay.
So, I'm going to go with ornamental onion. That's a double O. That's double points in Scattergories.
Oh,
but, so the genus is allium, but ornamental onion. So the big one is Millennium is the cultivar.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, ornamental onion, it's a plant that has, real strappy leaves like an onion that you might eat, but it's ornamental. And onion flowers are actually very pretty. They come in shades of pink or blue or violet, but the ornamental ones are bred for these just really large, perfectly round flowers for the most part. And there's a lot of different cultivars. What's the smaller one? The Eddie.
Is it Little Eddie?
Yeah, maybe Little Eddie.
Yeah.
And there's the Millennium that I mentioned, and then there's what's that?
There's like
The later blooming one.
is Serendipity a later
Serendipity, and I think it has more twisted.
Yeah,
leaves.
Medusa's one that's kind of, it might bloom a little earlier, but it's got this real pretty blue foliage on it. Yeah, kind of twisty turny foliage.
Yeah, really, really reliable plants that are so dry tolerant. Full sun on ornamental onions. We found out last year that if they're getting any shade, they're going to get the was it the aphids, the allium aphids.
Yep.
So full sun, but tough as nails, and just really beautiful flowers that carry on for a good portion of the summer.
Yeah.
So
I like it. Ornamental onion. I'm going to go with Ophiopogon,
yeah,
which is what I thought you were going to. So Mondo grass. And then the reason I thought Tim was going to go with Mondo grass was because we work for a municipality here in Central Ohio as horticulturist. It's kind of a higher end or upper end community, a suburb of Columbus called Dublin, Ohio. And I take care of a lot of our perennial plug ordering. So in mass plantings and stuff, we do plug planting. It's just more cost effective to buy flats of plugs than it is to buy pre-finished 1 gallons or impact perennials. And everyone's given me their lists of stuff, and Tim shoots me over this list with like 1.2 billion Ophiopogon that he wanted ordered for mass planting, and I was just like, are you shitting me? Like, that many Ophiopogon? And yeah, so that's why I thought Tim was going to go with it. But real small grass, like teeny tiny grass, I've seen them used a lot, like in Japanese gardens.
grass-like. It's a grass-like. It's a flowering plant, but it has it's a very grass-like foliage plant.
Yeah, you're going to hear it called dwarf mondo grass. That's why I said that. But
Okay.
yeah, you can get it in the green foliage. You can get it in the black foliage.
Yeah. I really like the dwarf one, which is it's very delicate, and it's just beautiful. It makes a really nice ground cover, very slow to spread. And then I like the black one too, nigrescens, and it's a little bit bigger, but still very small in stature plant. But really, under optimal conditions, it's one of the most black looking plants you can think of.
Yeah. Are you excited to get all of those in the ground?
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of them in the ground, but I still have about half of them to go. I got half of, what'd you say, 1.2 billion?
Yeah. So you got maybe 500 million.
Yeah.
Yep, not
500 million. So,
Not bad.
So.
All right. So Ophiopogon, ornamental onion. You got any more O's, or you wanting to move onto a different letter?
The only O that's coming to mind right now is Enithera, and that's primrose, and I'm not that jacked up about it, so I'm ready to roll the die.
Amelia, you rolled an O.
Roll it again.
All right, roll it again.
R.
Letter R.
Letter R.
So R. So Matt, what did the pirate say about the steering wheel attached to his crotch?
R, me matey, you're driving me nuts.
Yes. That's absolutely right. So,
Yep.
anyways, I had to get that in there.
Bet you did.
Luckily, you rolled an R. So our plants.
The first thing that came to mind when I saw R, and I could think of a lot, but for some reason, the first thing that came to my mind was ranunculus.
Uh-huh.
So early season flowering plant, you would see, at the time you're buying like your pansies and snapdragons and violas and things like that, you would find ranunculus. Nice, big, pretty flower, comes in all of the different bright springy colors. Makes a great piece in a pot for the front porch or, anything like that. So ranunculus, look for it in your garden center next spring. So what about you? You got anything with an R or no? You're still thinking of something for an R? Okay. Let me think of something else for an R here. What do we got? We could say raspberry bush.
We could say Rubus cockburnianus, but we're gonna save that for another day.
Yeah.
We're gonna save Rubus cockburnianus for another day.
Yeah.
I'll say Retibita for if you're going to do a naturalized planting, a prairie type planting.
Okay, yeah.
I think it blooms about the same time as our native like echinaceas do, so it looks really nice with that bright pink.
Yeah.
And it's a yellow flower that looks similar to a black-eyed Susan, but it's not a black. I think it might get often confused with a black-eyed Susan.
Speaking of black-eyed Susan, Rebecca.
Yeah, there you go.
Black-eyed Susan.
Right into Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we're going to throw that out there, my favorite Rebecca is
Maxima.
Rebecca Maxima.
Yeah. Super tall Rebecca. They're black-eyed Susan. Real pretty bluish green, kind of big chunky leathery foliage that just shoots these flowers to the freaking moon whenever it flowers.
Yeah, so if you've got a big border, this isn't for a small space, but if you've got a big border and you want a plant that just dominates things, Rebecca Maxima. There's bigger plants like Rebecca laciniata, like is just it has a large footprint all around. But what I like about Maxima is it has this really cool blue basal foliage that looks like cabbage, and then it just shoots up these stalks out of nowhere. So you can kind of plant things around it, and it'll shoot up these big, beautiful flowers, and they look like little yellow sombreros.
Yeah,
Don't they?
they are.
You ever thought about it?
I haven't thought of it that way, but
So-
I will now.
And we leave ours up all winter long, and
Yep.
they just kind of create height. I mean, we're talking 6-8 feet tall of flower stalk.
To the moon.
And just real quick, little side nugget with the R here. My daughter Amelia, the die roller, just came over and wrote rose on a little sheet of paper. So, yeah, how are we forgetting about rose?
I mean,
It's forgettable, but it's so we can still talk about it.
yeah.
Neither Matt or I love roses, but
We don't love roses, but we're not hating on
no, I
people
appreciate
that like them.
I appreciate roses, and I'm glad people grow them. I'm just not willing to put in the work.
They're a nightmare.
Yeah, the fungus and the insects and the rot and the everything.
And the thorns.
And yeah, that should have the first thing I should have said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you grow roses, good job. Good job. I'm glad for the institutions that do that, the people in institutions that are obsessed with roses, but
Not this institution.
yeah, no, thank you. They don't knock me out.
So that was letter R.
But yeah,
That was a robust one for someone. You were looking at me like,
robust indeed. Yeah.
I can't think of anything. Weeding up. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So-
I thought about some letters ahead of time, but I haven't thought about that
Yeah.
letter. So
Okay, Amelia, do us the pleasure. The letter M. M as in Matt, right?
Mom.
Mom for Mother's Day, Matt for me. All right, letter M. You got anything? Letter M. What could we go with here? I will say I'm going to use the letter M to talk about a grass called miscanthus and how we don't like it. And if you have miscanthus, I suggest removing it and using a better grass in place of miscanthus. But miscanthus is an ornamental grass that you'll see frequently at the garden centers. It's planted all over the place, but it definitely can be invasive, find itself in other places that it's not supposed to be, non-native. So yeah, M for miscanthus.
So what's a good suggestion for a replacement for miscanthus?
Well, it's a good question. I didn't think about that.
I know.
What's that?
Andropogon.
Yeah, andropogon, big blue stem. That would be a good one. Maybe like even some of the Calamagrostis, like the Carl Forsters, the Brachytracha, the
Panicums.
feathery,
perhaps?
panicums. Yeah, panicums would be that would be a good native. So the switch grasses would be a good replacement for the miscanthus. So M for miscanthus.
No good. Dig that stuff out. It's terrible. I'll go with magnolia.
I just got a text from your wife. She said sorghastrum. So Indian grass. Yeah, that would be a good one. That's a native. Good job, Megan.
Thank you.
So, what do you got?
So I got magnolia.
Okay.
So I'll throw magnolia out there. It's a pretty big group of trees and large shrubs,
Yeah.
but very early flowering, and specifically ones that I like. Umbrella magnolia is a great native tree. What was the big leaf magnolia? Is another native, big flowers, big leaves. They almost look tropical.
Yeah. They look like something from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they do, and they're the blooms are extremely fragrant on magnolias. Most magnolias come in white, but then there's like the little girl hybrid, shrubby type magnolias that are pink. There's some hybrids that are yellow blooming, like a buttery yellow.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I like the ones that are blooming white.
Yeah.
And I think Southern Magnolia is another one.
Yeah. I was going to say Southern Magnolia would probably be one of my favorites, especially when you see them in the South. So if any of you are Southern listeners, Southern Magnolia, there are some cultivars that are a little bit more hardy to our area, to this zone. So two that come to mind for me would be Bracken's Brown Beauty and the Edith Vogue, I believe is what the other one is. And they're both going to be more cold weather hardy than some of the ones you're going to see like down in Georgia and Alabama,
Yeah, and the southern magnolias are evergreen to semi-evergreen in our area. They have a nice brown pubescence on the back side of the leaf. So we're all about that.
Yeah, we are.
But yeah, a really neat tree that I guess my only knock on magnolias in general is that they have like a one season where they really shine, and otherwise they just kind of fit in with the rest of things. But when they do bloom, it's pretty magnificent.
Magnificent. M for magnificent.
M for magnificent.
Okay, perfect. So the big no-no miscanthus and the big yes to magnolia. So moving on, next letter, Amelia. Didn't we already do that? Yeah,
We have
roll again.
S.
S. Okay, can I go?
Yeah, you go.
I'm going to go with Schizicarium for the little blue stems. Skizzies. And there's nothing else I have to say about those things other than they're awesome. So, as for Schizicarium,
Little blue stem. It's probably our top tier ornamental grass.
yep.
It's native. It's very colorful, both during the growing season and post growing season.
Yeah, there's been a lot of breeding those, in recent years. So there's traditionally some of the little blue stems you would hear people complain about them being floppy, not holding themselves up good in the garden. And they've come a long way with that. They're more stout now. They're more upright, tighter in form. There's short ones. There's some that are a little bit taller, the real colorful ones. But what I really like about them is they fit into an area of these plants that just thrive in horrible soil conditions. I mean, these things just grow like a weed along the road where they're getting, hammered with road salt. Just the nasty pollution from the traffic and the hot blazing sun and the horrible soils, and they just...
Yeah, I'd say they do best if you just plant them in shitty soil and then spit on them.
Yeah.
If you plant them in good soil, fertilize them and water them,
Yeah.
they get floppy.
That's when
and
they start to get floppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want a stout grass, very erect.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for in a grass. Just
You like them erect.
erect and very tickly at the ends, which is what Schizicarium does.
A little tickly erect.
Yeah. And so while we're giving the Schizicarium the Skizzy name, I want to give the Spigillias a little shout out, the Spidgies. So we got the Skizzies and the Spidgies. But if you haven't heard of this plant, Spigelia marylandica, what's it? A common name? Indian? I don't know. We keep having this issue with common names. It's irrelevant. Spigelia marylandica. It's a native plant with just these incredible flowers. This one's going to go on the Instagram this week because
it's called Indian Pinks,
which is interesting because they're red with like
woodland pink root.
I like Spigies.
Us horticulturists struggle with the common names sometimes.
Absolutely, but it's not pink at all. It's a nice, like, real rich red flower that opens up kind of like a trumpet into a star shape, and it's got a yellow throat, and it's just one of those ones that's going to get people talking in your garden when they see it. It just very prolific bloomer, very interesting blooms that are unlike anything else. Really nice dark green foliage. And what I like about it is I've grown them in pretty good amount of shade. I've seen them growing in pretty dense shade, and I've grown them in quite a bit of sun and anything in between. So
yeah,
pretty adaptable in that way.
I think it's too, sometimes it's, what I like about them is sometimes it's hard to get that red color in the shade garden, and they just really shine. I'm trying to think. I guess there are perennials out there with that bright red, like Lobelia cardinalis, the red cardinal flower.
But this is earlier season. They're just starting to bloom, like they're just starting right now. So if you're talking about succession and blooms, you're getting these red blooms earlier in the season then.
But the red in the shade,
yeah,
because most of your shade stuff's just going to be like whites and blues and purples and lavenders and things. So
yeah,
add some red to your shade garden with some Spigies.
Now I will say, to me, this is a plus. It's been seeding around our garden this year. It took a few years, but it's starting to seed around, which is okay with me because it's not an invasive plant. It's native. And the other thing is the deer pressure, and we've been getting it munched on at our house. They were staying away from it for a few years, but now I guess the hostas aren't enough.
Oh boy.
So we're getting a little deer pressure.
You're getting a lot of deer pressure. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So.
We're recording at my house today, and we've been recording at Matt's house, and Matt got to see some of the deer pressure I'm getting, and it's terrible.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. So, all right. So there's the S's. Amelia, you got your dice. All right, here she comes with the next letter. We'll get a couple more letters in here, and then we'll wrap things up. All right.
P.
The letter P. You got anything, Timmy?
Well, we talked about Physocarpus last week, didn't we?
We did. One of the weeks we talked about Physocarpus.
The shrub week.
Yeah. Are you going to talk about Physocarpus again?
I don't think it's necessary. It's a wonderful shrub that's going to add, really nice foliage color throughout the season. Reds, purples, chartreuse.
Yeah.
Real
Physocarpus, common name would be 9-bark.
9-bark.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm going to leave you with anything, use it instead of barberry.
Yeah, 100%.
That's where I'm going with Physocarpus.
Yeah. I'm going to say one we talked about just a little bit ago. I'll just P for panicum.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice native ornamental grass. That can be used in a lot of situations. So,
is there any cultivar you like? Northwind?
Northwind's nice. That's the one that's got the nice blue kind of foliage to it. There's one that I've got at my house, and I can't for the life of me remember the cultivar. It gets taller and it stays real upright.
I know which one you're talking about.
I can't think of the cultivar of that one off the top of my head, though.
While you think about that, I'm going to get another double score here, and it's a Persian Perodia for my P. Yeah.
Man, you're just killing it with these double scores.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite trees.
100%.
And Persian Perotea is not native, as you can probably tell by the name there, but it's another plant that is in the Hamamelidaceae family. So we've already talked about Fothergilla quite a bit. We've already talked about witch hazel. So you're sensing a theme. It's a really good plant family, and Persian Perotea fits right in. I don't know. Fall color, I think, is the elite trait of this tree. It's a medium-sized tree. Slower to medium growth, although I know some people who will contest that and say it grows really fast, but it's a true full season plant. So early on in, say, February, it blooms. It has red blooms that are kind of witch hazel-esque, fun to look for when you're out there and it's cold and nothing's going on. And we move into it's starting to leaf out. Beautiful leaves that look a lot like witch hazel, a really nice hue. And then if you look at the bark, it's got a nice mottled bark that kind of almost looks like camo, army camo, right? So whites and grays and greens.
Something like Kusa dogwood even.
As it ages. And then as we start to wrap up the season and it starts to go into fall, it's one of the later trees to start turning. So after the maples are done, the Peroteas just start lighting up. And just like a Fothergilla, they might be yellow and orange and red all at the same time. They might just be all red. Really elite fall color. And then what I think is underappreciated is that they're often holding onto the leaves, and it's a nice tan leaf color that hangs on into the winter. So really, I don't know. It's one of my favorite trees. I can go on and on about this one.
Yeah, he suggested we hear about it. It seems like every other day from one of our coworkers, Kyle, who Tim suggested he buy a Persian Perotea, double P, double points there, for the side of his house, and told him, look, it's not going to grow super fast. And the thing took off like a freaking weed. And he plays about it he's happy. But then, like, if you talk to him about it,
I've been to Kyle's house. That thing is perfect for that spot. It's not overgrown.
But it's so funny because he's always complaining about it. But I looked it up. The cultivar I was talking about, the panicum's called Totem Pole.
Oh,
so yeah, it's a proven winner. But
makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different nice panicum cultivars, a lot of them. So do some research. You find a good one. So cool. So P's. Let's do one more letter.
One more die roll today.
One more die roll. Amelia, you ready for this? You better roll a good letter.
Drum roll. Can I do a drum roll? G.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got anything?
I do, but I feel like you have something.
I don't. I mean, you go first. You don't. Okay, I'm going to go with, we'll say G for geranium. And we'll talk specifically about the perennial geraniums. So we've talked about them in other episodes, some of the, ground covery type geraniums. There's like Geranium Roseanne. What are some of the other geraniums, Tim? I'm drawing a blank right now. There's Boom Chocolata. There's
espresso.
I was thinking cappuccino, and then a real cool one that we just have seen some on Instagram recently. That it's an introduction from Brent Horvath at Intrinsic Perennials up in Wisconsin. It's called Huggy Bear.
Oh yeah,
and it's got that dark foliage. I don't know a whole lot about it. I need to read more on it.
No, but it looked beautiful on the photos.
It looks gorgeous. So G for geranium. You go ahead. Your wife your wife's listening into us from upstairs, and she just texted us one for G. And I
got nothing. I got nothing from her, but I'm gonna go with GM.
Okay, yeah.
That's not what she said, is it?
No, it's not.
So GM is like a little dainty perennial that it typically comes in like red, yellow, or orange, although I particularly like the orange GMs. I think yellow is kind of pedestrian, if you will. The reds have a nice, rich red color, but I like the orange one because it started as Tim's Tangerine, but then they like changed the name to Totally Tangerine, which
It's always going to be Tim's
always
Tangerine in my
gonna be
heart.
yeah, thank you. And I think it's a beautiful, it's a little dainty plant. It's got just kind of a massive basal foliage. It sends up a little stalk with a little dainty flower. They don't last that long, but they're great for the front of the border, early season bloom. And then as the season goes on, other plants just kind of cover them up, just kind of.
Yeah, it's one of those plants that you almost forget about. But when it's doing its thing, it's like it's your favorite plant in the border, when it's flowering.
Yeah.
It's a great little plant.
Yeah. It
really is.
So what?
Well, okay, so we're gonna go with ginkgo biloba we'll just go with this for the last G, unless you got something to add.
Yeah, little shout out to Sam Murch. Ginkgo Balboa.
Ginkgo Balboa
is what he would call it.
Yep.
If he's
not to be confused with Rocky Balboa.
No, Ginkgo biloba.
Yep. So, great. I mean, what more can you say about ginkgo? Great hardy tree that's been around since the beginning of time.
Prehistoric.
Yeah, it's the I don't even know.
If you were to like line up all the trees in a lineup and say like which one doesn't fit, it's ginkgo. It's different than the rest.
It is very different than the rest.
It has so first of all, it has like the buds look like little peckers.
Yep.
Little pecker buds.
Little wieners hanging off.
Yeah, they're different than any other bud. But after we get the leaf out, it's such a cool leaf.
It's like a pomaded type leaf. It's got this real pretty, just kind of like soft, like
flat top with a notch.
Yeah, and
like a matte finish.
Matte, leathery like finish to it. And what's cool about it is you can get it, some of these ginkgos grow like 100-foot plus tall and just massively, big around in diameter. But then like you can go to some of these plant collectors and you can see these ginkgos that would fit in a pea dish on your countertop. They're just these little teeny tiny things that like don't put on any growth each year.
Yeah, and then there's upright cultivars, there's horizontal cultivars, there's ones with smaller leaves. It's
weed being the big thing right now. So there's a nursery here in kind of in Central Ohio that we go to. There's a placement up north of us. His name's Dave Danaher, and he does a lot of this the plant collecting and plant propagating and grafting and things like that. It's kind of a little specialty nursery. He does a lot of the oddball Japanese maples and stuff, and he has told me that all the plant collectors right now, it's like the variegated ginkgos is what is hot right now for plant collectors. Japanese maples will always have their place, but he said the big thing right now is
the ginkgos,
the weeping ginkgos and the variegated ginkgos and things. So,
and then just final thought on the ginkgos is to wrap up their season is the fall color.
Yeah.
A lot of trees have a yellow fall color. This is effing yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a dirty yellow. It's not kind of yellow. It is a true bright yellow. The leaves don't take on any brown. They just turn yellow and then fall off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's great about it too, is quick and easy cleanup. You have leaves one morning and the next day, every one of the leaves is on the ground. So you only have to rake the leaves once.
Yeah. And just a little nugget, the female trees make these, they're not technically fruits because they're gymnosperms, but we don't need to get into that. But they drop these seeds and they stink.
Yeah,
they're smelly. So a lot of the cultivars are males, right?
Yep.
The males. But the thing about it is nature finds a way, and they'll often change. They'll often change sex as they age. So It's nothing you can really rely on, but if you're going to plant a ginkgo in your yard, try to get a cultivar that's a male clone, which I think most
of the new cultivars
are going to they're going to try to make a male clone. So.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Alphabet soup for the gardener's soul.
I'll admit we're going to do that again. That's going to just be something we lace into the episodes here and there, but that was a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be, because when I get in front of this mic, I clam up a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it too.
It felt hard. I hope it sounds less hard than it was.
Yeah, I get nervous in front of the mics too. And then any other time, I feel like we could just nail these out with the letters. But when it's like heat of the moment, you've only got seconds to figure it out. You just get like a brain fart and forget about it.
I thought about M last night before I went to sleep.
And it just all was gone.
And it was gone.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Cool. Well, that wraps it up for this week's episode. Amelia's not down here now, but she did an excellent job. Maybe we'll have her back on again for the alphabet soup for the gardener's soul, the next episode that we do with that, whenever it may be.
All-time dice roller.
Yep. So, yeah, until then, make sure and follow us on the gram. Submit your questions, your horticulture and gardening questions, and we will be sure to answer for you on the podcast. So until next time.
Peace, love, and perennial plants.
That's right.
We love you.
Love and perennial plants. Love you harder plus still.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.